The meeting is now called to order at 1:29 p.m.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm on.
Okay, I transport. So we're going to do a roll call first. Okay, Abakwa,
Present.
Tata,
Excused.
Changpor,
Present.
Tange,
Present.
Yolisman,
Here.
Cousin.
Cousin.
Present.
Cousin. You know that. Okay, welcome everyone. We're going to go right to first a report from Ground Zero. Changpor?
Hello. Thank you very much. Okay.
Close this window.
Yes. Not much has changed from the last report I gave last week on Ground Zero. But you are aware of the invasion of Awing and Pinyin, and nobody really knows the real statistics as to how many were killed. But I think a lot of our people were driven to the bush as usual. The government claimed they killed 15 fighters and harvested a lot of den guns and motorcycles, etc., etc. So the invading quarters, arresting people, that thing that happened in Yaoundé is also happening here now. And that is what is going on. So I don't know what their plan is, but of course, like every other plan, it will fail. Now, another thing is that we are beginning to lose, we have been losing some senior SDF party people, and they are attributing it to COVID-19, which I don't buy. People are sick for some time before they die of COVID-19, but in Cameroon, you die almost immediately with your first symptoms. So that's what is happening. People are dying, people are being admitted in the hospital for the first time in a few minutes, and they are dying from their initial symptoms. So one doesn't know what is going on. Then, of course, in terms of COVID-19, everybody is just moving around generally, not protecting themselves with a very high transmission rate now, over getting close to 17,000 cases now, over close to 400 deaths, and yet people are not taking it seriously because the government is not taking it seriously. On the one hand, the government is telling people they must wear masks, something they discourage, and all the measures they had initiated, they discourage them. And so people have taken on to just doing what they want. And I'm afraid for what will happen to our people and many other people. Then the big problem that I have here is...
hold that thought for 1 second, Changpor. I just have a couple of questions.
Yes.
When you say 17,000,
yes,
those are, I assume, the confirmed cases. That's the number that they give for that.
By some testing or something like that, yes.
Yeah, right. Then sometimes in this country, they'll say there's so many cases, whatever, 100,000 cases, whatever. But then they'll say, but we really think it's another number.
Yes.
That's higher. Do they do that as well?
Yes, it's the same thing here. It's the same thing here. It will be more because over there is better because at least the testing is being done, is mass. Here, nobody knows the criteria for testing and who do you test. Apparently, it's people who show up that are tested. So a lot of people may even be dying on their own without being tested, or not even showing up, or moving around, not having any symptoms but transmitting at the same time. So it's much more than that.
Okay, and then Cousin gave us an overview of the health system in southern Cameroon, as well as Cameroon, and I'm wondering, is there a difference both in how people are treating the pandemic between Southern Cameroon and Cameroon, or is it a total disregard no matter where you are? Is there any significant difference that you
Yes,
see?
the way the health system was set up by the colonial masters, and that has not changed mostly, was that most of the health facilities were located in the big cities. So that's how the health system was set up. That basically means that people in the big cities have access. They have more access than people in remote areas. That's the first observation.
Right.
So when you have a pandemic like this, although the pandemic is a reverse because it started in the big cities because people were coming in from France, they could fly in from countries, those are wealthy people generally. They could fly in and they were the one who brought the infection. So the larger cities of Yaoundé and Douala were the first to be hit. Unfortunately, people did not heed to the advice they were giving them. So some of these people have been able now to move back now into the smaller cities, and that's where we have transmission now. Like in Boya, we have about almost 200 cases now, and that was not the case before, and it's spreading like that. So the answer is that it will be more. So in terms of whether there is discrimination, the discrimination starts by the fact that all the facilities, of course, are in Yaoundé and in Douala. The centers that they have built to handle emergency cases, hospitalize them and all, again in Yaoundé and Douala. Well, the rationale is that they will tell you that they have more cases. So that does not exist in any of the regions, like where I am, in the Northwest and Southwest. There's no center like that has been started that, oh, in case of emergency, we will treat. Of course, the assumption is that the cases are few. Okay, so that is where we are. But
so just a final question on that. You know, we notice here that a local leader, when faced with a certain number of increase within a short period of time, will on their own execute certain new laws, rules, mandates, etc. In Southern Cameroon, does that happen?
No, it doesn't happen.
Okay.
It doesn't happen.
All right.
The government has a prescription that everybody's supposed to follow, and that's it. Nobody's reinforcing it. Nobody's reinforcing it.
Thank you.
So yeah.
Can I just ask one last question on this, please, before you move on?
Yes, yes.
I'm with a group, the West Texas Organizing Strategy, working with the Presbyterian Church USA, and they're coming to Cameroon. So they asked me, you know, they were just talking about this, and they said, okay, what is it that what can they? I said they should use the measures that they have here, but they asked for something more specific. We are going to meet with the local church. What is it that we can take to what is it that we can take to go give the people? And I was like, I'm not a medical professional, but I'll find out. And I'm glad that you're here. You know, you again being in the medical profession, what is it that they can bring out, they can take along? Just something that they can take along to help, aside from mask, gloves, and stuff like that. What would you recommend?
Okay, so I think it's a good question. The mask, they can bring the mask, and then of course, hopefully the church is educating its people already about protecting themselves. After all, the church is also holding service almost every Sunday, and I don't know how they're doing that, because I'm a Catholic and I've refused to go to any church until this pandemic is under control. I will not go. I will not go into a church where there are too many people there. I don't know how the church is doing it. So there's a big education process. But all those things that you can bring mask, the big thing, of course, to bring the mask. But the rest are there, so the hand wash, sanitizers, and all that people can use, and then teaching people to social distance and all that. So, and then of course, well, like the church, they need to feed the poor. There are some people who may not be wealthy enough and have been suffering a lot. I don't know whether they can donate food items. I don't know how they do that. But these are the type of things that they should be bringing. But really, yes, they should bring the mask. It's very, very important. I'm a believer in the mask. I wear it when I leave my house, and I don't remove it until I come back. To me, that is the best. That is the best protection right now, and that's what we should be doing.
Prof, if I may just have a slightly different view. The masks are actually absolutely needed, but the problem with bringing masks is that they will invest in a lot of masks here that really are very disposable masks that don't last. And
Okay.
what I think, because rather than spend that money, they should go give that money. What they really need is the hand sanitizer and money. So that, because in Cameroon you can get the cloth that you use to cover your mouth, like the locally made masks. Those ones are washables, so, and they are reusables. So you can, but the ones that we use here,
It's
they are quite
possible.
expensive. I'm just from doing my uncle's funeral, the prominent journalist here in Limbe. So, and what we wanted to do, I thought about that, but then the masks are sold like, some of the masks are sold like 200 francs or something like that, which would be like a few cents here at the very beginning. But then if you take the mask that we use here, that mask will be like 1,500. At the beginning, I sent about 500 masks to the delegate in Southwest, because I had a friend who had some, so I just got some, but they turn out to be a little bit more expensive. So yes, the mask.
What time did you send the cloth mask? The cloth one?
No. What I'm saying is that the masks that are sent here were the ones where the regular masks that we would make that are made here or outside. But those masks were quite expensive. But each one of those masks, you could use it and employ it and might make about 4 or 5 of those cloth masks, and that would be much more effective. One of the problems, one of my frustration in the country was that it was this inability for them to actually co-opt the local things, put the local things that we could use locally that turned out to be much more effective than what we'll use outside here. Yeah.
They can use they can provide the funds for local masks to be made. It
Yes.
would even help generate, the people who are doing it, is kind of stimulates the economy somehow.
Absolutely.
I think I like that point. Yeah.
Agree.
That is critically what, if a company gave them masks, if the option was, say, a company has given them masks and will pay for transportation for those masks to be delivered in Cameroon, and could not convert that money, those masks into cash. Yes, and I will say, yeah, take the mask. But if there is an option to convert that into cash, and then actually empower people by doing the things that we do, with that we're saying, the fiber to make it is there, the machines to make it are there, the experts to make it are there.
So, but my own suggestion that goes to Tange here. So you could educate them that by taking the cash and giving that to local people to produce, you are at the same time giving them a means to buy food and work, and also using the I think that's the information that you should give these people, that those people have the skill to be able to produce these things on the ground. So what you need to take home is, you can bring the money and listen to today on the ground, because the dynamics on the ground is what is quite different from what is here. Let those people on the ground, they have a way of approaching it that is less costly and more economically efficient.
Right.
Okay.
If you discover, even here in the United States, most of the masks that are the best, apart from the ones that we are using disposable, most people are using the made, the handmade stuff that they do by themselves. Get the right
Yes.
So, and those ones are much more convenient. They are reusable because you can wash those. The masks that we have here, you cannot reuse. The maximum you can use it before it gets out of order, it's about 2 days.
So in summary, what you are doing is that, fine, if they have masks which they are not buying, they bring. All right.
Yeah.
When they bring them, the next thing is that there is issue of sustainability. So they can bring those, but at the same time, they can also help people to produce locally to sustain the mass once. So that is the issue here. So then the last thing that I want to, the observation that I want to make is one that is of incredible concern to me, and it's become very acute now. Just you guys are well aware of the reaction that we are getting from the alleged meeting that was supposed to have taken place between Siseko and some government people. The reaction that we are getting last week from that Bo Herbert, John So, and the rest were attacking Sissoko very. I mean, not Sissoko. Um, Paul Ayapol,
Ayapon.
and abusing him and calling him all, yes, calling him all kinds of names. And of course, these are the same people that are not seeing, that are not even supporting Sissoko. This is a little bit dangerous. It's unbelievable. When I think Abako and I was spoken about this before, I don't know how we handle this problem. It's a very bad thing. Now, Sissoko, people on the ground, they know him, they know his cabinet, they know that these are their leaders. Now, when Sako came, they also embraced Sako them because they said, fine, Sako and his team are in jail, so at least Sako and the rest can continue to rule because these people cannot take decisions, they cannot work and all that. That was understood. But it did not mean that there was supposed to be a discontinuity and that they were supposed to be cut off completely because they're in jail and that they cannot talk. Let me make it very, very clear. When Mandela was in prison, the government was talking to Mandela throughout. They were not talking to the other leaders, and that's the same thing that is happening here. Bia and his cronies will be talking to Sissoko and the rest, and they do that. They will not talk to anybody who is not on ground zero. They've tried to send emissaries. They sent them for a different purpose and different intentions and all that. It failed. So I think it is important that diaspora continues to work with Sissoko. I don't know how that message will be driven. So you form a television ABC, you go there to start insulting. What image are you giving to the international community? We are not one. Are they fighting for something else? Is Sissoko fighting for a different cause? Is Sako fighting for a different cause? Are the Southern Cameroonians or the Western Cameroonians fighting for a different cause? This is a very, very serious problem, and I was very, very sad to read this, and the whole of last week has not been a good week for me because of all this. I don't know how we handle all this, so I just thought I should air my views on my own and how I feel about all this. Thank you.
If I may respond to that, and Prof, I think that yes, you have the unfortunate thing about this revolution is that at the very beginning, we've made some errors, some of which are not unintentionally anyway, and they are coming back to bite us. Mm-hmm. One of which was actually the whole idea of forming a government. If you look back hindsight, it was not a very good idea. And even though some of us from the get-go had said, no, we should form a war cabinet and stuff like that, because that led us to a position where when Ayok was actually outside, Ayok had a job. All of those guys who are in jail, all of them had jobs in Nigeria. And they were comfortably living on their own salary. I mean, on their own sweat. Now, what we never really thought about, and again, when they went to Nigeria at the conclave, I was in Boston. We sent a team. I didn't go myself, but I wrote a memo and sent it to them. And one of the things that I was asking them was to make sure that they had a plan for transition. These guys were eventually picked up. We were in an emergency situation, and actually they went back and forth, and then eventually got this somehow out of a stroke of real, tragic circumstances. We ended up with leadership that none of them has a job, none of them has a source of income of their own. Look at all the people that are ahead right now, and to them, leadership of Ambazonia was no longer, geared towards actually the course that we actually wanted them to pursue.
Yeah.
It was not. It became much more now about serving personal interests, which was
survival.
Money. Mm-hmm. Yes, and these guys have now really been given the trappings that they really don't. That they've become now used to. All of a sudden, you brought some people from obscurity to start calling them Mr. President, Mr. Secretary, and Mr. whatever, and then giving them all these kind of terrible, things that they've become. It's almost like you've given a wolf blood and you want to take it away from it, it would fight you. And this is why you're seeing all of these things, even when they talk about the so-called Swiss process. The Swiss process itself, when they talked about the Swiss process, nobody actually is opposed to the essence of dialogue. That's what we need. But the problem is that you cannot really be talking about dialogue when the time is for you, when the other party is using it only to play for time. When it is when you are not able to use our experts. Okay, all of these people, who amongst them can actually sit back on the table and negotiate? If you ask them, where is the letter to show you to say that the La République had actually appointed the Swiss or agreed with the Swiss to dialogue? There is none. And then what is the role of HD? There is none. This is why you're hearing all these invectives coming from this small band, and that's why when the first race, my trip to Boya, the race were over 1 million and more. And out of that 1 million and more, the only money that these people could account for was probably less than $300,000. Okay? So this is why, if you then come out and to say, look, we need to do things, there is always an antipathy that evil has for truth, and that darkness has for light. And this is where the real issue is. But I can guarantee you, you guys don't have to worry, because most of the diaspora, and I'm sure the majority of the diaspora, if you dive in onto the town halls that we have every 2 weeks, you're going to realize that a majority of the diaspora are deserting these people. And that's why when they begin to desert them, what they want to do is to attack and attack and attack everybody. You know, this is where the issue is coming from. But the solution is going to come from, to me, it's going to come from the ground. When the folks on the ground start repudiating these idiots, okay? And none of them, you cannot have a conversation with them, a dialogue with them, and ask them to tell you their philosophy about why we fight, and they will tell you. So, for instance, when Ayok actually had that chance, when these people approach him, as they explained, the first thing that they did was to actually they reach out to a few people who could say, who are experts, to say, what do we do? And that's the situation. And then after that, they briefed everybody. They came into the town hall, in public spaces, in every place, and briefed everybody about what was going on. Everybody got to know what was going on at very, very big risk to themselves and at very big risk to everybody. But nobody could have told you, these guys who are actually like these parrots who go around singing and stuff, nobody ever told you what has been going on about the Swiss process. Everything is confidential. About who? To who? Who are these people? Where is their capacity to negotiate or to talk about something confidential to the number of Ambazonians with the expertise that we have? You know, so that's where the problem is. So we can guarantee you, it's not a diaspora issue. It is a band of actually, gullible individuals who are doing this, hoping that by attacking people, nobody would actually be able to say the truth. They've learned a lot from the Trump's playbook, which is attack, 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 and let people actually let the good people actually run away. Some of us have actually said, we are not going to court. We're not going to record. Okay, so, and we will not. And that's why we formed the town hall, and now SBC is back on air. So that's where people should get their information, and people should really realize, people should know that we would actually, the Ambazonia we want to build is a land of freedom. We don't want Ambazonia just because we want another country. We want Ambazonia to be an ideal. An Ambazonia is an ideal, just like America. I'm American now, but I wasn't born here. So, but I can run for every office except the presidency, which the country tells me I couldn't because I wasn't born here. But that's the kind of thing we want Ambazonia to represent, not, some not some figment of imagination of some idiots who don't know what they're talking about.
Cousin, that was some excellent thoughts, and this really goes in many ways to the wonderful, writings that Abafo wrote earlier in the week. I have just a slightly different viewpoint. I guess the first thing I would ask, when Nelson Mandela left office, he was followed by, is it Mbeki? Mbeki?
Yes, Thabo Mbeki.
Yeah. Now, we don't, it's all 2020 hindsight, we don't know. But if Desmond Tutu had run against Mbeki.
Yeah, sorry, I have a connectivity issue.
Okay. If Desmond Tutu had run against Mbeki, does anybody think that Mbeki would have won?
You know,
can I
would say no, but they had a better plan. Desmond Tutu was the conscience of the state, and there was no chance that Desmond Tutu was going to run for election.
Right. Well, that goes to my second point, though. But if they had, I don't think that it would be that Desmond Tutu would have lost to Mbeki. But that goes to my second point, which is, and we talked about this some time ago. Is there any evidence in modern day history being the past 250 years, of there being international support for someone from the church running a country? Do we have any examples? Do we have any examples of either international support or even what I'll say is state support, meaning another country supporting, saying that, this should be done? And the third thing that I'll leave you with is this. This is a made-up story. Abakwa, cousin, and Tange, and myself were all walking to a store. Abakwa, his right arm is sore because he's carrying $10 million in a bag. It's heavy. And we all approach a store. Now, I've broken my leg, so I'm actually in a wheelchair. Cousin is pushing me. And from time to time, Tange will push me. Nabakwa says, I'm going into the store to get some water. He puts the bag in my lap. And he goes into the store. Now, he could have given the bag to Tange. He could have given it to cousin. We're all family. We love him, he loves us all, but he put it in my lap. Okay? So I think that that's something that is not really being thought about in terms of this process enough. Okay?
Good example.
And we can discuss that another time. About what, do you have something that you'd like to add, or?
Yes. There is. I think Edmond put his finger on the point that if you look, those guys who are in jail, they were professional. I would say self-made individuals. Sissoko, Milan, and all these guys, they could survive on their own income. And if you look very, very critically and analyze this, any of these guys who left Cameroon, who worked in Cameroon, and they are in the diaspora now as leaders, it's just a personal observation, and I am entitled to. You would see that what all of them have in common is the fact that La République will do everything to crush any opponent. From our history, you would see that they neutralize everything to get only one party system. So even here now, when once I see someone as Nchankwo has mentioned, Bo Herbert, the others insulting someone who is in the lion's den, who has stood up, and they are thousands of miles away, having that arrogance to be able to, instead of using their position outside of the country to paint a good image about the struggle, they put themselves ahead of the ahead. And if you permit me again to cite this, on my show, these white guys were looking and comparing the Swiss talks and said, you cannot start talks by sending your leaders. It has to start from the lowest diplomats, and then you send conditions. So to me, I see that these guys are like salesmen, positioning themselves for the highest bidder. They could not give any other person to go to the street stock because they know that money will be involved. How could you have legitimacy at the street stock when they bought your tickets, they paid for your hotel, they paid for your meals, and then they paid for what they guaranteed you some pocket allowance. And then with someone who people who are already paying the ultimate price in jail on the ground, then you stand thousands of miles to insult them. I really feel that we who are out here, instead of making the international community look at us as laughing stock at people who are not really right for a statehood, we should be able, when you have that microphone as a journalist or a speaker, you can translate something negative to positive. But our people are using that to instead silence any opposing views, which is terrible.
Again, it just goes back to the fact that to them that is now their farm, and in addition to actually the fact that they're paying the allowances and all of that stuff, which from the get-go, the only person, there is just one person within that group that I haven't had the contact with. But the rest of the people, I have had very close contact with them. And I warn them about this nonsense. That you guys, if it means going to Europe, Ambazonians can pay your flights. Ambazonians can pay your whoever's lodging and stuff like that. That's not above us. But like the point that Afro is talking about. And I said, it just defeats the whole purpose. It leaves you with no wiggle room. When you are the person to go and sit there as the first person. It's like when you're going to war, they said the general leads his troop to war, but the general never stands in front to be felled by the first bullet. You know, there are two things. You know, it's just completely stupid. But anyway, I think we should move past this because these guys are becoming irrelevant. And as a sign of a dying horse, they would kick you with every hoof. I mean, with every they'll try to kick you with every iota of force that they have. So
and we pray that more voices on the ground, on ground zero. You are the ones who are feeling the heat. All these guys are in their air-conditioned room. More voices on the ground should start, because you people on the ground, you put your life at stake. You don't even know if the following day will meet you. But these guys are running in air-conditioned cars. Some of them are even so arrogant that if you say Comrade this, you say he is your excellency. You are so rude and arrogant to give a title. These are the kind of people who are running to be able to come home and govern. You ask them, have they ever attended any city hall, city council here, and see how these people run the government? None of them. But their only strength is to come amongst Cameroonians to talk.
It's not even amongst Cameroonians. It's amongst those who are on social media. At the very beginning, you know, if you could not charge these people for anything, you can charge them for stupidity, for political malpractice. And when they started this revolution, I would say, and you convict them without, because when they started, I said, the Cameroonians, the Ambazonians scattered all around the country. The one thing that you want to do is to go in every one of these localities and build the local communities, so that the more the local communities that you build here, the better, you know, the groundswell, the more the groundswell that would have, that you can reach your people. But everywhere where there was a local Ambazonian community, what they have done is, if it is not supporting them, they have managed to actually like just eviscerate all those communities, including even the one in Boston, right? Including the one everywhere else. Because again, you know, what happens is that evil never really likes sunshine. It never really likes light. Truth doesn't like people who can actually to give, you know, people power to the people. I mean, to the masses. They like to have all this, create all these social media narrative, and want you people to believe in it, and get a few idiots who come. John Stroh, when he came here, I warned him about this. And I said, if you are listening to these guys, this is what is going to happen to you. And now he cannot even go back to Cameroon. He cannot even
You
go
are
back
not alone.
He cannot.
I have a show that on the panel, all of them are white guys. They tell me through, there is no politician who has earned his reputation and be watching and listening to what you people go on the air and talk, to be able to come close to you, because you people are an embarrassment. And then really, we are in the diaspora expecting these people to go to the UN and support us, and then we amongst ourselves, we are showing that we are not ready. Isn't that really a stupidity?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Sorry, not to cut you short, please, because it looked like Changfo was about to say something. Sometimes we give priority because of connectivity.
Okay.
Let him say whatever he wanted to.
Yes. So, I totally agree with Tabakwa. I don't know whether our forum, I don't know how much influence we're going to exert tomorrow, but when we see this counter actions on, sometimes we see positive things. I mean, when we had all these meetings where they were demonstrating at the UN and all that, we on the ground zero felt very, very proud that our brothers are there now, leaving their jobs, going to the UN to demonstrate, to tell the world body the injustices that were committed by the colonial masters, by Ahijo and his French counterparts, and that had led to enslavement of us for so many years like that, and that the UN will listen. And I thought that at least that was a united front by our brothers. Then when we see now the same people who were active, like Mohammed, them talking, to think that they had a different agenda or that they can be so gullible and change suddenly is pathetic. And these are individuals that people should distance themselves from them, as that, in fact, like a plague. They should be abandoned completely, like Cousin has said. They should be abandoned. There are no two ways. These are not people you deal with. John So is my classmate. He was trying to defend Sissoko here. He risked his life. Of course, his life was in danger. That's why he left. Why do you leave now and suddenly now think that you are going to now join? Who are you joining? He doesn't even know these people that he's talking to over there. He doesn't know them. He never knew them. So you come as a lawyer defending the people's people, the people's leaders. Suddenly you are now changing and talking rubbish. It's pathetic. I don't know how to get in touch with him, but if I have a way of getting in touch with him, I will give him a piece of my mind that you are a disgrace. We don't need that. You better stay quiet. From what he went through here, we knew that his life was in danger. But how can you now reconcile that with what he's doing now? There's no excuse. He has amassed quite some wealth for himself here. He's been the lawyer for most disadvantaged people who have accidents, who get burnt in fire, the train accident and all that. He's made a lot of money. He's built some apartment buildings here for himself. He's comfortable enough to keep supporting Sissoko and the struggle, not taking sides and talking nonsense on some TV. That's not intelligent at all. So I don't know how we do this. I don't know how we get to these guys But a clear message should be sent to each and every one of these guys that they are committing suicide. What they are trying to do. If you cannot support the struggle as an individual, you stay quiet. You stay quiet. It's better than to be vomiting venom and talking rubbish, and you confuse people. You confuse people, and that's exactly what the government wants.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised that this same government now comes tomorrow and starts supporting John and giving him money over there. We need that money for what? It's unfortunate.
I think we in the diaspora should start listening to people who are on the ground, people who cannot sleep because of the gunshots, people who are risking their lives to go to work, people who are observing the ghost town. But we out here, we have that arrogance, and some of us do feel that just the mere fact that we have taken that plane and dropped in a white man's country, we have a voice to be able to look low and look with condescending attitude, as if you who is on the ground is not intellectually feel like us. You had been here. You are a person of both worlds. We should understand that you who have actually decided to be on the ground, you are the true heroes. Because at the end of the day, when those bullets fly ahead, when someone dies, you are the first person to see it and see that blood, exactly, and wondering if you will get home alive, not us.
Exactly.
So exactly. I think that you, by doing what you are doing, you are already sending word to those of us who are out here in the diaspora and following blindly these people who are manipulating and thriving, but on negative fake news, that what you say comes from ground zero, and you speak for many people on ground zero who have put their lives for us to be here in the comfort of this Western world.
Indeed.
It's good. You know, it's not unusual in situation like this for people to do some crazy things in search of power.
Yeah.
That's the first thing to understand.
Yep.
The second thing is a question, Abakwa, and I'm going back to what you wrote this week. And would it be fair to say that writing focused on 3 people?
Could you enumerate the 3 people, please? Because you are not speaking to us, but you may be speaking to the whole world.
Sako,
yes,
and
I think the other person was Milton.
Milton.
Yes. Because this is what I wrote. I wrote that what is currently going on now is like what happened between Ahijo Bia, who actually were connived and favored Muna, and then Joa stood up again. They yes, actually put him down and leave him out. So I was also analyzing that when our leaders in jails were abducted, our people had to rally to get some people to speak for us, to be our interim leaders. They chose. Yes. There were 2 candidates, Dr. Sako as the interim president and Milton Chaka as the vice. So now you see, because of all that, one person had to dismiss the vice. That was unconstitutional, because he didn't choose his running mate. They were put there by the people. So for him to do whatever he did to do this, and then I sort of analyzed that was as a result of Milton being like a Joa.
Yes.
Who was actually probably being very inquisitive and asking so many questions that the interim president did not want. So in order to silence that voice, he had to dismiss him.
But I think that for a struggle, and a very serious struggle which we have like this, we need to really start, strategizing very seriously how we really get our points across and keep some of these people that are fermenting trouble all over the whole place for their own selfish aims. I mean, the tradition with the French, we all know very, very well. They will go through any length to dominate. Look at the West African countries are trying to form a common currency, and they actually gave the name ECO. And now suddenly the Ivory Coast man goes and gangs up with France and wants to start implementing the currency with its own francophone countries. Whereas the ECOWAS is made up of about almost 20-something countries. The Anglophone countries that are there just kept apart. And Buhari is warning them that you don't do that, because you cannot want to be free and at the same time still wanting to be enslaved. That is the whole idea. So
let me assure you that the people's eyes have been opened even wider now. Those guys who are doing all that, just watch. Before the end of this year, they will not even have an audience.
Beautiful.
Because there is a town hall which has come up, which is gaining popularity, which is transparent, and which has a lot of youthful people in there. So all those other Facebook paper tigers and stuff that they're doing, they're beginning to lose clout. They're beginning to lose clout. And people have been questioning them ever since based on their record of mismanagement. And the point was made earlier on that those who were part of this leadership, the original leadership, I mean, most of this struggle is being done by people who are working, and the struggle is being financed by us all. Very few people are benefiting from the largesse of the struggle. Those who are now as fronts of the struggle, they live on the struggle. They have apartments paid by the struggle, which was not the case before. And so, as that is coming into light, people are questioning. People are like, nope, we can't do this, we can't do that. So people are wising up and like, nope, we can't do this. This is the original intention of the struggle. This is the direction we are going. What we are doing is reinforcing that too, because in my humble opinion, a struggle comes in different directions, and those who don't learn from history are not learning.
Exactly.
Those who don't learn from history are not learning. These leaders, I really wonder whether they've been involved they've been doing reading about about movements in history and seeing what is happening. You don't rise by pushing others to sink. If we all have a common objective, you can do your own thing your way, and the sum total of our struggle leads to that we have one objective, one common enemy. Don't turn your gun against your other counterparts in the struggle.
So let's look at.
And then one more point, David. Permit me just to make this. Then I would challenge any of these leaders. Where else beside La République have they managed or have they worked? Because as we mentioned, these guys in jail, most of them worked out of Cameroon. And that means they are exposed with different ways of doing things. Most of them have managed work for multinationals that are not only Cameroon. Means they are exposed to different ways of approaching things. Our leadership is not just a figure being the leadership, is to be able to demonstrate that you can think beyond your environment, that you have actually immersed yourself with diverse situations, diverse things, and now you are ready to be able to pool resources together. If we have a leadership that is so narrow, and that from Cameroon to here, and then you want to engage in the international community, and now you are sabotaging the others who had been there. And I mean, I'm sorry. We should be questioning. We should be talking in terms of that largesse that you mentioned, Tange. That the skills, the exposures that the people we hold responsible to lead us, do they really come from that broader perspective, to be looking at things worldwide or just narrowly from the point of view of coming from La République?
Well, it's very reassuring to hear from Tanguy that at least that that those fellows will fizzle away by the end of the year and they will have no support and all that. It's very comforting to hear that, because we don't need them around. We really don't need them. So they are just terrible, incredible, and unnecessary noises. And I'm glad to hear that they don't just have that much of influence. So that's good to know that. Okay. Anyway, I brought this thing up, so I think I might have derailed the agenda.
No, I think that is part of it, David, isn't it?
It's part of it. I just wanted to add how important love, heart, and mind, or the lack thereof, is entrenched in this process. And also, sometimes the human condition, when you're in something, you cannot see. So even in this meeting, we have mentioned things that the world has learned from our president.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, let's be honest. When you look at it with 360 vision, he's going to be labeled as the worst president in history. So those people who actually are putting energy into that kind of framework are putting energy into something that is going to damage their own legacy. They can't see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They can't see. There used to be a time years ago when certain powers would actually kill, they would assassinate. We've stopped doing that as much as a culture. Blood is expensive. We don't do that that much anymore, and that's the way it should be. But people who often and you know, it's easy to see if they don't have that mind, if they don't have that heart and that love, it really becomes evident. And that's why we can be confident that those who talk, you know, crazy like that, they in the end they won't win.
That's right.
You're very right.
Okay. So thank you, Chan, for those. Wonderful to talk about that. We're going to